We went into good job strategy with probably a higher level of staff empowerment than the average retailer, and in some cases potentially a lower level of standardization. What embracing the good job strategy enabled us to do was to sort of seriously engage in process standardization and do it without, I think, the fights that we would have had otherwise. Change is challenging, but people were able to see process standardization as part of an overall journey toward a stronger, better company, and realize that they're changing the way they did things was a relatively small price to pay for the overall company value of a standardized process.
One of the key concepts from the book that we implemented was Standardize and Empower. And at first, that was hard, I think, for our management team to wrap their heads around how we were going to do both at the same time. When we started engaging with our employees, we realized that the work was hard, and we didn't have the perfect systems set up, and they were doing work in multiple screens and things that made their day complex. So we knew we needed to standardize the work. In order to do that, we empowered the people.
So for us to excel as a company, there's a lot of policies, and there's a lot of standards that have been set out and different specifications that they need us to do. Now, if you're following all these guidelines, where's the ownership come from? The ownership comes from you stay within the guidelines, but you try to do that better than anybody else can do it at that particular time. And that's how we stay inside those standards, but you try to do it just a little bit better than everybody else.
What we've done is create a standard pool of tasks that we will train our cleaners to be able to do, and allows us to build standardized task lists, which aligns expectations with the customer, that the things we agree to do, we're going to do them excellently, but we're not going to do everything you ask us to do. What we've been able to do with our cleaners is say, these are the things that, if you are drilled on them, you have to just know how to do them cold, but anything outside of this, you're empowered to make decisions using our core values. And so that's sort of, for us, is a pretty clear example of where we've standardized the way that we do things and the way that we train to things, but then also empowered people to make good decisions.
It's inherent in organizations to want to control outcomes, and it's challenging to let go of that control. I think we've learned throughout our history, and in particular in the past 3 years, how valuable it is to give up that control. But the fact that it's valuable and we know it doesn't take away from the fact that it still is challenging. The specifics, I think, that many retailers will face, and we in particular face, are that we operate a lot of relatively small stores spread across a relatively large area. And retail tends to be a cross-functional discipline. So what ends up happening is, if you want to empower staff in a particular store to make a process improvement, in order to succeed at it, they really need to collaborate, in many cases, probably most cases, with a variety of other departments. So creating effective collaboration between groups of people separated by distance, working different schedules, that becomes really challenging. And the easy temptation is to say, let's build the process improvement in the home office, and we'll then test it in a store. When you test it in a store, you can get grassroots feedback and incorporate it, and we do. But I think what we have yet to figure out is, how do we realize the opportunity of letting the first ideas, the initial sort of creation, come out of a store? And we've done it to a certain extent, but far less than we know we need to.